Self-publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello and welcome to the Self-Publishing Show. It's me, James, and I'm going to be with you for this Friday. Coming up in a few moments' time, we have an interview with one of the two Brads who founded and still to this day, entirely by themselves, run Vellum, the formatting service. So Brad West will be joining us. Now, I know Vellum is Mac only and some of you are PC. Maybe most of you are PC. I don't know. A lot of authors do use Mac, but generally PCs are more popular. But so sorry about that. There is a way of using Vellum if you're on PC, but it is such an amazing bit of software. It's a joy to use, in my opinion. I love the formatting stage of book production. And if you are using Vellum, do listen, because we talk about a couple of the features within Vellum that quite a few people don't use. You might not even know they are there, so worthwhile listening to Brad. He's such a lovely guy as well. We're talking about a bit of indie publishing generally. Okay, have a couple of things to talk about before then.
Now, last week I told you I was going to have a little play with 11 Labs, which is an AI voice generator. So it can actually synthesize your voice. There are two ways of doing it, a kind of quick and dirty way, and then a more long-term way, which you have to record 15 hours of your own voice, which is basically an entire novella. I was actually going to do that, and I realized I would be recording my entire novella just to synthesize my voice, to try and see what it would sound like if I got a synthesized version of me to do it. Anyway, I did the quick and dirty one, and somewhere in this podcast I'm going to use a bit of that voice instead of my voice. And your job is to work out if you can find out where that is. I will give you the answer next week, but I'll probably post a thread in the community group on Facebook so that you can have a guess if you want. I mean, hopefully it'll be really obvious, because I don't think we want our voices to be 100% synthesized at this stage. We always want it to sound, as authors, I think we want it to sound like it's a human narrating our voice. Certainly a lot of you are voice actors and you do your own voice acting work, and so you will certainly be concerned about this. So keep listening, see if you can tell where it is, or I have become the robot James.
Right, a couple of other things to mention, a couple of course announcements. First of all, we are going to be opening Self-Publishing Launchpad this Wednesday. It's the 22nd of May, 10 p.m. UK time. So Self-Publishing Launchpad is the foundation course. It's the one that will get you established as an independent author. It's ideal for someone who's at the beginning of their career. So whether you're coming towards the end of your first book or you're on books 2 or 3, but you haven't really got a good setup and mailing list and all the rest of it, at this stage it is the one for you, and it'll get you into your first paid ads and reviews and so on. It's a very comprehensive course. It's basically a collection of all the material that you can find around the web, one place or another, but you don't really know if it's the best information, and it takes you a long time to get there. And if you're like me, you make a lot of mistakes without following a course like this. So it's one we have a lot of testimonials on this course of how successful it's been and what a platform it's been for many people. So you can go and check that out, learnselfpublishing.com/launchpad, and that will be open from 10 p.m. on Wednesday. Another announcement, if you are on our Ads for Authors program, if you're enrolled in Ads for Authors, we are going to have a do-over of a couple of the significant courses there. So first of all, Facebook Ads for Authors. It's been a bit piecemeal over the last couple of years as they've changed a few aspects of the interface, and they've introduced Advantage Plus. So the screens look a little bit different in some places. I did do quite a lot of re-recording last year for this, but it is a bit piecemeal. So we decided to redo the entire course. And so my colleague Tom Ashford and I are going to be doing that. So you'll get a brand new version of Facebook Ads for Authors later this year. We're hoping to have it by June, but that might be a bit of a tall order. So we'll see when we can roll that out. And at the same time, we're also updating Amazon Ads for Authors. So Ricardo Fayat is taking the lead on that. And that should be ready for June. So Amazon Ads for Authors, Facebook Ads for Authors, two of the flagship courses within Ads for Authors, will be brand new in a couple of months' time with everything up to date. I should say about Facebook ads, I spend a lot of time in the Facebook ads interface, and I've noticed a few people saying, oh, it's changed so much. Actually, I don't think it has changed that much. I think they've introduced Advantage Plus, which is a different way of doing things, and definitely worth testing, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Some other tutors out there are saying it is, that you don't need to target anymore, that it'll do it all for you. I'm not sure that's always the case. In fact, I'm certain it's not. However, the interface looks different because they really thrust Advantage Plus on you. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically you could go in and manually target where your ads are going to go, and manually choose where they're going to be shown within the Facebook ads ecosystem. Or you can cede all those decisions over to Advantage Plus, which uses Facebook's own knowledge to serve your ads to who and where it thinks will work best. So it looks different, but actually it's slightly hidden. But if you click on edit or manual version, switch over, all the other stuff is there just underneath the surface. So the actual platform, the system hasn't changed that much at this stage. Now, sort of feels like in the future they're going to take away those manual options, but we don't know that for sure. I kind of would be surprised if they did take them away completely. But anyway, Advantage Plus definitely worth using for now as a test alongside your targeted adverts. But you should understand how the system works from a manual targeting point of view to start off with, particularly placements. I think it's the one area Advantage Plus does not do well. If you don't take over the placements of your Facebook ads, you allow Facebook to send them everywhere, they will be sent into places which are really no good for book sales. And it's so tight for us. We need to optimize our ads so that we get the very best value for every dollar we spend. And you need to be focused on things like the Facebook news feed for an older audience. Most of our audiences are older. Not all of you listening will have older audiences, but I certainly do. The Facebook news feed, the Instagram news feed at a push are very good. Once you get onto Marketplace and Reels and some of those ephemeral things that fleet and go and disappear, they're no good for an older audience. So you don't want to be serving ads. It's just wasted money. And don't let Advantage Plus do that for you. You want to take over the placements and do those manually. Right, I think that's probably it for my rambling. It is time for us to listen to Brad West, love the Brads, who run Vellum over there in the US. They're going to be here in June at our conference, so you can come and meet them. They're celebrities in the indie world. So here's Brad. I'll be back for a quick chat at the end of the interview.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Hello, Brad West from Vellum. Welcome back to the Self-Publishing Show. Great.
Hey, James. Thank you.
Yeah, great to chat with you. And long-time listeners of the show will know that I'm a user and a fan of Vellum. I just think it's a really wonderful bit of software, and it's a pleasure to use, and you do a great job. But there might be people listening who do not know what Vellum is, so you better start by explaining that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Vellum is software that you can use to take your manuscript and turn it into a book. So that's a process called formatting, and that's going to give you files for an ebook or for print on demand. Basically, take that Word file that you've been staring at for a year or longer and actually turn it into something you can publish. Software that you can use on your Mac. We try to make it as easy to use as possible and try to make something that you can really be proud of and feel like a book and get your book published.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years for my first novel before I got to the formatting stage, but I take your point. Sometimes it is a year for fast people. Sometimes it's a month for romance writers.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mac, so we'll get this bit out the way at the beginning. It is software that runs on the Mac OS system. There is a way around it for PC users. You can there's something called Mac in the Air, was it, or Mac in the Cloud or something?
Mac in Cloud, yeah. It works for some people. It really is designed to work, natively on your Mac. People who have Macs really appreciate that. It's a desktop piece of software. It means you don't need an internet connection. You can use it anywhere you want. If you want to go to that fabled writer's cabin and unplug, you can keep on using Vellum. But it is designed for Mac. Some people have used this software called Mac in Cloud, which gives you like a virtual Mac that you can use, and you can use it in there. And some people say that they're only using Vellum for like a half hour, so it's not too bad. But it doesn't work for everyone. But it's a suggestion out there. We have a help guide on our website for those who are interested in that.
Yeah, and the software itself is very aesthetically pleasing. It sort of fits into that whole, I think, the Apple tradition of looking good, and like my mouse is all probably You might call it style over substance or form and function, but I think Apple have really perfected form and function, haven't they? Which is why they did so well.
We try to follow that guy. I think the mouse is maybe not the example I would pick, because that's probably the mouse that you need to turn on its side to charge.
Oh yes, that is true. It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So a little bit of style over substance. Yeah. But yeah, we care about aesthetics at every level, and we just want to, the biggest compliment we hear is people who have been looking at their Word file for 1 year or 10 years. They're just so excited to just see their book as a book, to see it, with page numbers and headers and everything in there. And just to be a part of that is something that we really enjoy.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the way it works. It's an old concept which used to be knocking around when I was in computing in the 80s, called what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always exist in the way that we format stuff. There are format options in a few of the bits of software people use, and often it's ticking a few boxes saying this is how you want it to come out, and you press a button. It's a bit like compiling old code, and then it spits out the final document. But Vellum's not like that. You literally work with the pages, almost turning the pages, seeing exactly what they look like, and I think that's really helpful.
And it's an interesting twist on what you see is what you get, because what you get can change. It will look a little bit different in your ebook and in print, and it will look a little bit different on a big iPad versus a small phone versus a black and white e-ink reader. And so that's part of Vellum 2, is showing you all of those answers for what you get. But yeah, really giving you a better idea of what that's going to be, and allowing you to make changes, and also just getting excited about it.
Yeah, and it's great that it looks and feels good, because ultimately that's about the end product, isn't it? Everything dovetails here. It's important that our 10 years work, or 1 year, 1 month's work, is the formatting doesn't get in the way of the reader. It's got to be an elegant and easy experience.
For sure.
And I think that's what, if you use your software correctly, I think that's what you end up with.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely making sure everything still works for ebooks, all the different ways that people can read ebooks. Ebooks are interesting in that a reader can change to use their own font, can change to make it much bigger, much smaller. Those are great from a reader's perspective, that they can have something that works for how they like to read, but you want to make sure your ebook can adapt to that. So that's something we pay close attention to.
Yeah. Now, for people who aren't using Vellum or thinking about using it, let's talk about a few of the things. I think there are quite a few features in there, less well known and less well used, that are actually very useful. Perhaps you'll know some that I probably don't know, but why don't we start with things like the links, the way you would link to another book. So say the next series.
Sure. Yeah. So a few people, will use Vellum for a while and before they discover this feature, and it really comes into play as soon as you start thinking about stores other than Amazon. If you want to, say, distribute with Apple Books, or Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Kobo, etc., or even if you just want to have something on your own website, selling direct is really big lately. It can be tricky to give a reader a link to your next book. And what you don't want to do is just drop a link to Amazon in there and then send that to Apple Books. You'll find out very quickly why that's wrong. They will just completely reject your book. And so a unique thing about Vellum is, for your ebook version, Vellum is going to make multiple versions of your book. It's going to make a specialized version for Kindle and a specialized version for Apple Books, one for Kobo, etc. And almost all of the content is going to be the same except for those links and a few other things. But those links are going to point to the correct store for each of those versions. So someone reading on Kindle, if they want to read book 2 in your series, they're going to go straight to Amazon. Someone who is reading in Apple Books, a great thing about Apple Books is you don't jump out to a web browser and deal with this, interface of the web. It's just a nice little pop-up buy right there. And we see a lot of people get great read-through on Apple Books for that reason. And the reason that can work so well is it's a direct link. It's going straight to the Apple Book store. It's not bouncing the reader out where they have to choose where to go. And the way that works is when you're setting that up, when you give a link, you're not going to give just one link. You give a link for each destination, and Vellum figures out which one should go where.
Yeah, that's very easy to do when you're just putting in those details. And likewise, I think even if you are just with Amazon, it will geo-link, right?
Yeah. So Amazon, a little twist is there's not just one Amazon store. There's Amazon.com in the US. There's Amazon.co.uk. And, Amazon can eventually get a reader to the right store, but, it's always better to get them straight there. So the links that Vellum use will check where the reader is, and if they're in London, they'll go to Amazon.co.uk. If they're in Austin, they'll go to Amazon.com. If they're in Ontario, they'll go to Amazon.ca.
Yeah, perfect. It saves a lot of time. Another feature that I use a lot, particularly with Vinci Books, is things like the copyright page, where it is and what it looks like is different for me from Kindle to paperback, just because I think in the paperback people are going to see it. In the Kindle they probably won't, because it tends to start you off at the beginning of the book. It doesn't matter so much what the table of contents etc. look like. So the copyright page, I will do a specific one, and if you've got ISBNs, obviously you would want that copyright page potentially to be different anyway. But that's also something you can do. You sort of right click on the page and say only in the print version or only in the Kindle version. You've only got one Vellum file, but when you do the generating, it spits out all these different versions, which is perfect.
Right. Yeah, so that's one example. Another example is something like, in your ebook, you might want a dedicated page that says, hey, sign up for my newsletter. It has a lot of links in it, and click here, which obviously would look ridiculous if you're seeing that in print. So you can make different versions of that book, or just say, hey, I only want this newsletter sign up in my ebook, and in print I'll just skip that.
Yeah. Now, tell me something that I might not know about Vellum. Is there some other hidden features?
Well, there's something that we released a few months ago that not everyone has gotten up to speed on with, and that is reusing elements. So if you're a first-time author, you're going to set up things like, your also by page or your about the author. As your career extends, you might those pages are going to be modified over time. You're going to grow that library of also by, and you might have, say, 10 books in your catalog or 20 books, in your catalog, and keeping those all straight can be a little cumbersome. And so what we introduced in the end of 2023 was a way to say, oh, this is the also by page that I want to use in all my books, and whenever you need to update that, you can make that change in one place and automatically update all of your books. And we designed it in a way to just be really general. So anytime you want to have something that you want to reuse somewhere else, we have a box set tool that authors can use. If they've got a series, they release, book 1, book 2, book 3. They can build a box set of that and sell that together. Well, what happens if a reader reports a typo in book 2? You don't want to have to remember, I've got to change it over here and over here. And when you build a box set, Vellum will keep links back to those original books. So if you make that correction in book 2, your box set's going to get it as well. So that's been something that people have really, especially authors who've been building up that catalog, have really appreciated and used in really productive ways.
Wow. Well, you're right. I didn't know that. So there's and I'm quite a heavy user of Vellum. So that's great. Now, something that your colleague, hilariously also called Brad, came and talked to us about at SPF a couple of years ago were these plates, these illustrative plates that I guess mainly used at the beginning of chapters, but actually you could use them anywhere. And I'm thinking now with AI being an option for generating images a little more easily than we used to be able to, and more inexpensively, that could come into its own. Do you just want to talk through that feature?
Sure. That's a feature we call heading backgrounds, and it's a way to just bring a really dramatic entrance to the first page of a chapter. It can be a range of uses. We've seen really subtle backgrounds that are just kind of add a nice, organic feel to a page, or we see really high contrast, really dramatic pages, and you can actually flip the text to be white on black for that first page. Lots of different uses. You can have just one that establishes a theme. for your whole book. If your book involves, a beach setting, for example, you might want like a beach background for each of those chapters. But we've also seen people use them for specific characters or POVs. And I think that's where, for something like a beach, that's probably something we've heard from a lot of authors who find a good, stock photo and use that and just drop that in and kind of make some adjustments to make it, more subtle. But something like character POVs, you might want illustrations, and custom illustrations for your characters can be really cool, but they can also be really expensive to hire an illustrator. It's really time consuming to do that. And yeah, AI is something that can bring you some options, if you get the right prompts for your characters, or if you want to say have some world building and show, what this world looks like. That's something that you can use AI and use those as backgrounds, or just, full illustrations in your book. We've seen a lot of that for people just stepping up their books, or producing like a special edition of their book that they might release after their initial publication.
Yeah, fantastic. We saw some fantastic results, and Brad demonstrated that to us a couple of years ago, and it got me thinking. It's on my to-do list somewhere to do like an RAF roundup for my books, which I think would look great. And special editions, which you mentioned direct selling. I mean, that's a really big area at the moment, and most of us would probably, with a bit of time, think of things that could personalize a book, get a print version of it, and then sell them direct on our website. And it's a good way of doing that, and a nice and easy, convenient way. Instead of us thinking, how on earth would I actually do that? Here is Vellum that will do it for you.
Yeah, and there's really great options for selling direct that, you've probably talked to with other people about this, but, that don't actually involve, housing a bunch of boxes of books in your closet. There's options for, drop shipping, or even, we hear from some authors who just list their special editions on Amazon, and, they don't have to deal with any of the logistics of delivery, but they still have this special version that some of their big time fans can purchase.
Yeah, brilliant. Now you're always working on Vellum. It surprised me. I was chatting to you and Brad at one of the conferences, and I said, how often do you end up making changes to this software? Because it seems such a neat, compact program to me, and you guys were like, every day we're in there, we're in the code every day doing something, which amazes me. But you got big plans for the future, or is it perfecting?
We always, it's always something, and we do try to keep, we don't want to change everything and move everything around on people. We want to keep everything working how it does, but sometimes it's a lot of work to keep everything running. But when we are always making small changes, maybe make things a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, or work a little better on stores, and then we're always kind of thinking about larger things. And we have so many different types of users, authors, nonfiction authors, fiction authors, formatters, small publishing houses, that long-time authors, brand new authors. We try to even it out and balance things so that okay, here's one for this group. And so our last release was added footnotes, which are used by a lot of different people, but really nonfiction are the people that were requesting that, and that's been great. One for a lot of nonfiction, authors of biographies and histories and religious studies making use of footnotes, but we hear fun things from fiction authors who are using footnotes for ways we didn't expect, and that's fun to hear. So I guess to answer your question, nonfiction is kind of what we focused on. We'll probably flip over to something maybe for the fiction, maybe something a little less serious in the future, but we're always talking to customers and hearing what works for them and what they want, and when we're at the next conference, we'll talk to people and hear some ideas, and that's really what guides us and where we go.
Yeah, And if people want to talk to you, you're going to be in London next month.
Yeah. We will be there, and that's always fun. It's a great mix of meeting brand new authors that we can tell about Vellum, and just, some of them have never formatted a book before, so we can help explain, what that process is, what it looks like. And then, we love meeting customers who've been using Vellum for 1, 2, or 3, or some 10 years. Love seeing what they've been producing with Vellum and hearing from them. We have a lot of people just stop by and give us a thumbs up and take a sticker, and that's fun too.
Yeah, definitely. And how much is Vellum, and how does the pricing operate? Is it subscription or is it one-off?
It's a one-time purchase, and we have 2 options. We have some authors, it's fewer and fewer now, who are ebook focused, and so we have a $200 price point if that's all you are interested in. But pretty much everyone now is working with both ebooks and print, and so that is $250 US. I can't remember the current pound conversion.
That's fine, yeah.
It will probably change by the time this airs.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And do you know,
and then the way it works is you can go to our website, you can download Vellum and use it. Bring your book in, see how it looks. You can use it as long as you want to. There's no time limit on that. The only thing that is disabled is the button that you use to generate those files. But everything else is available, and whenever you're ready, you can make that purchase. We've had some people who have literally used it for about a year. Some people have actually written their book in Vellum, and they get to that point where they're finally ready to publish, and then they send us an email and tell us, hey, I'm so happy to finally give you some money. I'm going to be purchasing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we design it so people can really understand what they're getting into.
Yeah, I was gonna mention you can write the book in Vellum. I mean, actually, there comes a point where we tend to have our Word document. It ends up on Word one way or another because most editors require Word, so you end up with Word and spacing, and then you go back into Vellum. We go into Vellum to format. But from that point onwards, usually what happens in my world is that you update 2 files. For typos, etc., you update the Vellum file and the Word file. But I'm starting to think, Vellum's been around a long time now. You're not disappearing anywhere tomorrow. I think you could exist in Vellum, and you can actually start in Vellum because it's a little bit like Scrivener. You can move the chapters around whilst you're writing. Yeah. Do you know many people actually who do write in Vellum?
It's not a ton, but every conference we go to, we hear from someone, and we've added some features for them. So one thing that you can do is if you start in Vellum, you write the whole thing, but as you mentioned, you need to get it edited. You need it to get it to an editor. You can export that out of Vellum and into Word and send that to your editor. And the way we export it is in a format that is exactly what Vellum is going to want when it comes back in. So the editor can make their changes, and you can bring that back into Vellum, and you won't lose any of your chapter divisions or anything like that. But we hear from them, and they like. A lot of people like just seeing their book kind of magically appear on the right as they're writing. They just think that that's just a nice reward.
Yeah, it's motivating
as they're working.
Yeah, definitely. Another little thing I found out recently, we have some back catalogues where we haven't always got the Word manuscript. In fact, in some cases we have no manuscript, but we publish the books at Vinci, which is awkward. And trying to convert the PDF the proof PDF you can download from Amazon, trying to convert that into Word is horrendously difficult. All the online PDF converters won't do it. It's full of all the author name stuff. But the one thing that does work is importing that converted Word into Vellum, then exporting it as a Word document, because your software seems to strip out a lot of the stuff that gets in the way. It's probably something that could be used nefariously by someone pirating it, but actually legitimately, if you're trying to recover a manuscript, that export of Word is surprisingly useful.
Yeah, we try to. We basically, when things come in, because we know that this is how people work. Everyone knows that they should be indicating their new paragraphs by setting up a style with an indentation. Not everyone does it. Someone, or even if they do it, they're not always on it. They might do a tab sometimes or a space sometimes, and some people still have the habit of hitting 2 spaces. That's just being a human writer. And so that's part of what we do when we import that book is we're mainly looking for the content of that book. And just from that process, you do get something cleaner in and cleaner out because we're really only looking at that content.
Yeah. Well, Brad, always a pleasure to catch up with you. And I'll say, for me, formatting in Vellum is like a reward for having written a book. It's the bit I really look forward to. It's a pleasurable thing. We forgot to mention, I think both you guys come from a Pixar background, which is another really beautiful, aesthetically pleasing organization that just creates stuff that looks great, and that shows through in the work you do.
Oh, thanks for saying that. Yeah, we spent about 15 years at Pixar, but we've been doing Vellum now for over 10 years. So been a big change, but it's been a fun, different path to take.
Well, we appreciate it, Brad, and I can't wait to see you and catch up in London.
Yes, I can't wait. We'll see you there.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
There you go. That is Brad West from Vellum, and if you're a Vellum user, you'll know why I feel so warm and fuzzy about that particular product. If you're not a Vellum user, it's probably because you're using a PC, because I think most people with Macs probably do use Vellum at this stage to format their books. And some useful tips there about the store links and so on inside Vellum if you're not already using those. Okay, so that is it for this week. Don't forget, Self-Publishing Launchpad opens for enrolment on Wednesday at 10 p.m. UK. learnselfpublishing.com/launchpad. And you can, on that page, you'll be able to see everything that's in the course. I'm going to send a couple of emails out at the beginning of next week that just outline exactly what the course is, what's in it, and whether it's going to be suitable for you. You can also always ask us that question if you want. We'll give you an honest answer, of course. And just to reiterate, we have our live conference in June, London's South Bank. Hopefully the weather will be lovely, 25th and 26th of June, Tuesday and Wednesday. Do come and join us. Go to learnselfpublishing.com/SPS live. Right, did you spot Robot James? I don't know how it's going to work on YouTube. I'm going to have to work hard to try and sync it with my voice on YouTube, but that's a task for me in the next few minutes. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much indeed. I shall speak to you next week. All that remains for me to say is a goodbye from me. Goodbye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.